Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. It is important that we have this debate on housing today, so I'm pleased to have the opportunity to speak and to support Polly McNeill's amendment to the motion from Adam Tompkins. Good quality housing is central to physical well-being and mental health, so ensuring that everyone has a safe, warm home to live in is key to improving general well-being and creating a stronger economy. Frankly, solving Scotland's housing crisis should be higher up the political agenda. But I have to say, when I hear from the Tories about new cabinet positions, new towns, new deals, new agencies, I fear we are hearing from the same old Tories, because there's no recognition about what it takes to be able to afford to get into a home in the first place and to stay in a roof over your head. Because Adam Tompkins mentioned the report by Naomi Eisenstadt on her review of the life chances of young people, and he cherry-picked from that report, but he said nothing about her findings on low pay and insecure work and the impact that that has. So perhaps we'll hear more from that in conclusion. And I say housing crisis because that's exactly what we do have in Scotland today. The rising cost of housing is pushing more and more people into poverty. The private rented sector is continuing to grow, with rents rising faster than inflation and resulting in a growing housing benefit bill for the government, which goes straight to private landlords. And around 1 in 4 households who rent privately are families with children. The current cost of a house rose by 75% between 2003 and 2013. And only a quarter of people under the age of 34 own their own home, and that's down from just under half in 1999. It is unfair that this generation of young people will not be able to access something that previous generations took for granted, including many of us. To tackle this housing crisis, we require a range of targeted approaches, and I think we've heard some good ideas, including from some of the Tory benches. Some of their analysis is correct, and I think the thinking that Andy Whiteman has been doing and leading on is good work that we can look at and build on. We do need to invest and build in social housing for a new generation. As someone who grew up in a council house, I'm only too aware of the unfairness that another generation of young people are growing up without that option, or are being forced to wait for years and years and years on housing lists which are impossibly long. We also need to help ensure that Help to Buy policies help everyone, and I think Polly McNeill's touched on that, because we have a system where those on the lowest incomes remain locked out of home ownership. The target for 50,000 affordable homes over this parliamentary term is welcome, including 35,000 homes for social housing. But targets can only be met if greater support is given to the construction industry and the supply chain involved in the construction of homes. I worked as a project manager for a major house builder in 2008 when the recession hit. So like many others, I was made redundant, and we've seen many people, many skilled people, leave the sector. We know that in Scotland we need 12,000 new construction workers between now and 2021, and we need to do much more to make that happen. Adam Tompkins didn't take my intervention when he was in full flow about the planning system, but I wanted to raise is that if we are serious about investing in social housing and delivering that, that has to be backed up by a well-resourced and a reformed planning system that puts communities at its very heart. And this ambitious programme for delivering new towns and new deals, I was interested to find out what the Conservatives are proposing to do to support the planning workforce, which has diminished by 20% in recent years. Because when the planning bill comes before Parliament later this year, it does provide a unique opportunity to be bold and be radical about how we reshape the planning system, so that communities feel that they have a voice rather than being dictated to, as it sometimes appears. And I hope the government will take the opportunity to engage with the planning democracy movement as the bill progresses throughout the Parliament. I've made clear before my disappointment that so far it appears the government isn't that keen on a rights-based planning model, which would give communities a real say in decisions that are being made about the places where they live. And I think Alex Cole-Hamilton is not in his seat right now, but he talked about placemaking, and I think that's the approach that we have to get involved in. So I would welcome a change in direction from the Scottish Government on this. In their briefing for today's debate, Homes for Scotland have also expressed concern over the lack of detail in the planning review proposals following the Places People and Planning position statement in July, especially in relation to local development plan gate checks and the introduction of an infrastructure levy. For a long-term house building strategy to work, we need to invest in the planning workforce and we need to facilitate that. There has been a real loss in skills and I think a loss in confidence in a sector which has become very reactive. Just about to conclude, dear Presiding Officer, I think something that I just want to mention is that there's a huge amount of land is already zoned for planning or has planning permission already. So it's not simply about increasing the size of land banks. I think we have to have a real honest audit about where housing consents lie. Are they in the right place? Is that the kind of, we can reinvent the wheel and build new towns, but I think we really have to get an understanding of what's already been consented and does that fit the needs of communities. Thank you.